Hey kids, welcome back. Lesson 27. This is Module 2 still, and we are still working on long division. So that's all right, because in Lesson 27, we're taking everything we've been doing over the last several lessons and probably the last couple of weeks for you, and putting it all together so that you can just really get good at it, just doing things over and over. So the objective in the book is to divide decimal dividends by two-digit divisors, estimating quotients, reasoning about the placement of the decimal point, and making connections to a written method. We're doing long division. We're using the standard algorithm. That's what we're doing. A couple of practice problems in the teacher's edition that you guys don't have access to. And they are like this. Word problems in a 77 kilometer relay race. Each of 22 team members will run an equal distance. How many kilometers will each person run? Remember, when you read a word problem, you need to identify what the whole is. And so the whole distance, or the whole thing that's being shared here, is the 77. The whole number, whatever it is, the whole that is being shared, goes on the inside. And so really, your reading of these problems is... you're practicing and practicing to try to figure out, well, what goes on the inside? And then what is on the outside? What is the thing that's doing the sharing? So each of 22 team members, these are the people that are doing the sharing. And so they run this equal distance, and so the 77 is being shared. Use the standard algorithm. If I had 20, again, round the divisor in your head. I wish I had 20, because that would help me count 20, 40, 60. If I was able to come up with 3 20s, I would have about 60. If I had about 60, I'd be pretty close to 77. I'd be 17 short. And so you're trying to find a number that makes sense here so that you can multiply and get something that is pretty big here, but not bigger than this. So that's really the objective. Also, the words in the word problems can be very challenging if you don't understand what they are. So I always recommend just stop, look up words on dictionary.com. When I was young, back in the dinosaur age, we just had dictionaries in books. And so if you didn't know a word, I mean, fat chance if you were going to look that thing up in the big, thick dictionary that's this big. Like, we never looked things up unless you had to as an assignment. Okay, you guys most people have a phone handy, and you could just look up vial, or you could look up serum. And so these are words that are going to throw people off. Anyhow, there are 2 more word problems, and I hope they don't throw you off, but this is, again, it's important to know what the words mean so you know how to split everything out. A vial contains 14 7/10 milliliters of serum. Serum could be anything, but in this case, it's going to likely be a medicine. And the medicine is split equally into 21 tiny containers. And so if you take this big vial, it might look like a test tube or something, but then it can help you envision what's happening with these numbers. Again, you don't have to use this. You could just use a tape diagram, okay? And a tape diagram is always just a big rectangle. So for the last one, and again, these are just practice problems, knowing that if the 14 7/10 milliliters of serum, this is what's being shared, that goes on the inside. 21 containers, that goes on the outside. And then knowing with decimal division, you have to put the decimal up, divide this entire thing by 21 because it will not fit into 14, and then go ahead and do your multiplication. In our book, we have to do the multiply and check. That is the strategy for the front side. Then I was running out of room here, of course, and so I just turned the page aside because I didn't want to have to turn it over. So this is about surface area, and that's going to be coming in later modules. You might not know what it is. It's the area or the space that covers a rectangular area. And so this one is talking about construction paper. The surface area would be 140 25 inches squared. That means little squares all taking up the space in that rectangle. If the length is 17, what is the width? So if you know this, always remember that the formula, area equals length times width, plug in the numbers. I love saying plug in, and it's like, it's so cool. You just take this number and put it in place of the A. The length is given as 17. Put that number in place of the L, and then the W comes down. Then, of course, if you really want to look at the division, 140 and 25 hundredths divided by 17. And focus. Thank you. And then we get our standard algorithm. So a lot of little notes, but very important things. And I'm going to do 2 videos for this lesson because the long ones are just getting cut off and it's annoying me. So let's just do this front side and then we'll do the word problems on the next video. So divide and check. If it will help you stay organized, especially for the middle column, you're going to want to give yourself some space kind of like this. So mark off kind of like a big giant tic-tac-toe board. Give yourself as much room as possible. Let's do the division. Remember, 16 is on the outside. 5.6, 5 6/10 is on the inside. Decimal up. First thing, move that decimal up and then start your division. If you have nothing for any whole number, I always like to hold that spot with a 0 and then move on to the next place value position. So now we're talking about 56/10. So with 56/10, we're dividing by 16. You could say, I wish I had 20. And then you could go 20, 40, 60. That might be 3. But I actually have less than 20. But if I had 15 and I did 15, 30, 45, 60, that would be 4. So 3 or 4 is a good guess. Let's try the 3. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. Ooh, look. The difference between 48 and 56 is only 8. So this was a good guess. Now, because we are continuing with this strategy of annex a 0 and keep dividing, we're not going to put our 8, okay? We're going to keep dividing. Now, bring it down. So remember the steps of the division family: divide, multiply, subtract, compare, bring down. We're on the bring down step. Now I have 80 divided by 16, and if you think about it, again, with the, if I had 20, 40, 60, 80, that would be 4, but I don't have 20. I have less than that. So I could try a 5, thinking about 5 times 6 being 30 with a 0, and then 5 times 1 being 5 plus 3 is 8. And that gives us our 0. That's our step 1. Step 2 is to check. 0 and 35 hundredths times 16. Now we get to practice our standard algorithm for multiplication with decimals. Remember to ignore the decimal because we will put it in at the end. This is hundredths times ones, so we'll make sure we have 2 places in our answer. 6 times 5, 30. 6 times 3, 18, 19, 20, 21. And then 6 times 0 is 0 plus 2, and so that's why you can put 21 when you multiply next to a 0. But we'll just keep going. Skip this space or put a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 0 is 0, so I don't have to put that. Add these. Add. Hundredths. Compare. And done. Okay? Lots of information, so let's just keep going. Remember that 21 divided by 14 was correctamundo. So plan on annexing a decimal and a 0. 14 is divisible, goes into 21 at least, well, one time. And then the difference between 21 and 14, hopefully you recognize is 7 because it's multiples of 7. Bring down the 0. Now I have 70 divided by 14. So how many times can I fit approximately 15? And if you're guessing around 5, when you look at about the same numbers using that 5 times 4, there's my 20. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. If you're not guessing these numbers right away, that's okay. You get better as you get older. It just takes time and recognition. 4 times 5, 20. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. Hold this spot with a 0 or leave it blank. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Add 6 and 5 is 11. And then we have 2. But where's the decimal go? It goes right here because tenths times 1 ones is tenths. 21, 21. Okay, 24 divided by 48. Put that decimal down and up, and then annex a 0 right away. 24 is not divisible by 48. Hold it with a 0. But 240 is plenty big enough. If I had 50 here, remember 50, 100, 150, 200, and then 250. That would be 5, but I have less than that. We can try the 5. 5 times 8 is 40, and then 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 24. Nice and easy, right? They're just trying to get you used to this. I'm going to put 48 on top and 0 and 5/10 on the bottom because I just want this 1 and then the 0. 8 times 5 or 5 times 8 is 40, and then 20 plus 4 is 24. Ones times tenths is tenths. And look at that. They match. Hooray. Let's do another one. 36 divided by 24. Okay, 24 can fit into 36 just one time. And you have a difference of 12. You might notice that these are 12 times 2 is 24 and 12 times 3 is 36. So annex a 0 and bring it down. And then I have 120. And if I had 24, again, 5 times 4 is 20, and 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. So you're kind of starting to look for numbers that are repeating because sometimes you'll have done the work already or something close to it. So do your check. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. Hold that with a 0. 2 times 5 is 10. The 0 goes down, the 1 goes up. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Tenths times ones, tenths, 36 is our number. Okay, good. 54, 81 divided by 54. Go ahead and annex a decimal and a 0. 54 fits into 81 one time to get 54. And so now we need to subtract, and I can't take 4 from 1, but that's okay. Go next door, take 1 and give 10. 11 minus 4. And then 7 minus 5. And when you get your 27, compare it to 54. And that's less, so we can move on. 270 tenths is what we're dividing now by 54. And remember, look for, if I had 50 and I had 25, then it might be a 5. I can try that 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25, plus 2 is 27. Let's take your quotient, multiply it by your divisor. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. Hold this with a 0. 25 here. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. 0, 11, 8. There's our 81, but what is it? Tenths. Okay. Now we have a decimal dividend. Hooray, something new and exciting. So 15 and 6/10 divided by 15. The decimal's already here. So place that in. And then start dividing. 15 divided by 15 is 1. Multiply and have nothing left. Hooray, that actually is really easy. We still bring down the 6. We still now have to divide 6 by 15. Now 6 divided by 15 can't be done. But what about, what goes up here? A 0. Now annex a 0, bring it down, and now you have a new dividend. I have 60 hundredths that have been regrouped. Remember when we did the place value chart, you have to bump the greater place value position numbers into the lesser ones by 10 times. So here it is. 10 times 6 is 60. 60 divided by 5, 4. 4 times 5 is 20. And then 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. So we end up with 0. So take your whole quotient, 1.04, and multiply by 15. 5 times 4 is 20. 0 goes down, 2 goes up, and then 5 times 0 is 0, and the 2 comes down. 5 times 1 is 5. Hold this with a 0, and then 1 times everything. 4, 0, 1. Do your adding. And now where do I put the decimal? 2 places here, 2 places here. Compare, and there you go. All right, big fat book here, so we'll get this done. 15 into 5 and 4/10. Put that decimal up, don't forget it. It matters. 5 is not divisible by 15. Hold that spot with a 0. But 54, so if I'd had 15, 2 of them would be 30. 3 of them would be 45. But 4 of them would be 60. That's too high. So 3 times 5, 15. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. There it is. The difference between 45 and 54 is 9, or use the standard algorithm. Then annex a 0, bring it down, because we have 90 hundredths here that we can divide by 15. And if 4 of them make 60, then 2 more would make 90. Let's prove it. 6 times 5, 30. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3 is 9. Subtract. And we have our 0 and 36 hundredths that you can put on the top times 15. Do your check. 5 times 6, 30. Then 15, 16, 17, 18. I put the 1 right down because it goes up and then falls down. Hold this with a 0. And then 1 times everything. 6, 3, 0. Add. And hundredths times ones is hundredths. Here's your 5.4. 5.4 and the 0. Okay, next one. 52 into 16 and 12 hundredths. Decimal up, it's already there. Now if I have 52 as my divisor, it will not fit into 16, but it will fit into 161. Now if I'm using 50 in my head, remember we're combining all of our skills here, and I have to count to 160 by 50, so it'd be 50, 100, 150. So I could try 3 and see where that gets me. 3 times 2 is 6, and then 3 times 5 is 15. See how close you are? Now we do our subtraction, and the difference between 56 and 61 is 5, or you can just do the standard algorithm if that makes you more comfortable and come up with 5 that way. 5 left over, nice small number, bring down the 52, and what have you created? You have created a 52 divided by 52 for 1, and nothing left over. Do your check. Multiply. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 0 is 0, or leave that blank. Hold this with a 0 or leave it blank, and then 5 times 1, 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Again, it's going to fall right down. 2, 11, 6, 1, and then it's hundredths times ones, 16.12, and compare, and it matches. And the last one on this page, 16 into 2 and 8/10. Decimal up right away. Don't mess around with those. And how many times can I fit 16 into 2? 0. How about 28? Well, once or twice, people, once or twice. 2 16s would be too big. So we're going to do 1. Do your subtraction. Get 12 left over. Annex a 0. Bring it down. So if I had 16, and again, when you get into these awkward small numbers, it might be hard for you to put a logical guess. Just remember that the closer the leftovers are to your divisor, the higher your guess is going to be for your quotient. So if I'm guessing somewhere in the upper middles, I might try a 7. 7 times 6 is 42. And then 7 times 1 is 7. 8, 9, 10, 11. So you want to guess somewhere where you're going to be looking at, if you multiplied that number, what would the carried over number get you? So now you do your subtraction, 120 minus 112, and that's 8. Now I have a leftover here, so let's annex another 0. Bring it down. Now I have 80. And with 16 as my divisor, I don't know if you guys remember this, but we did have 16 as a divisor and 80 already, and it was 5. So look for the work that you've already done. 5 times 6 is 30. 0 down, 3 up. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So look for the work that you've done. If you already did it and it was successful, then why do it again, right? Here's your check. Last one. Oh yeah, click subscribe if these are helpful. I'll come back again. 6 times 5, 30. We have 42, 43, 44, 45. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. And then we don't have to do the 0 because it would be 0. Hold this with a 0, then move on over to the tens place because it's really 10 times 175 thousandths. 1 times 5, 5. 1 times 7, 7. 1 times 1 is 1. Add them up. 10, 8, 2, 1, 2, 3. Now look at this. 1, 2, 3. Place that decimal 1, 2, 3 places in. Thousandths times ones gives you thousandths, and it matches. Hooray. So I apologize for so much content, but that's how these are. So come back on the next video and we'll do the word problems together. Bye for now.